is lease Old Ridgeberry Road rescheduled. Today's date is Monday, July 6, 2009, caucus room, Deer Hill Avenue. The ad hoc committee consists of myself, Greg Seabury, Rockwell's chairman, Shane Nagasha, and Ben Chinisi. With us at this meeting is Corporation Counsel Les Pinter, Director of Finance, or Deputy Director Dan Garrett, Director of Planning Dennis Elkin, Director of Economic Development Wayne Shepard, Mayor Mark Boughton, Petitioner and Paul Scalzo, Ted Haddad, Mr. Claude Priolet. Close.
Yep, that's good.
Paul Javer, and ex officio members are Councilman Joe Cabo and Councilman Bobby Arconti. Did I miss anybody? If I did, just ring in now. Members of the public. John's always here.
Poor guy.
Yeah, and he doesn't have to be here. All right, before we begin anything, I think that it'd be prudent to turn it over to the mayor here and ask him for his input as to the progress that's taking place thus far. Mr. Mayor?
Thanks, Mr. Seabury, and thanks everybody for being here tonight. And I just want to let you know I didn't get my tan for these guys. I was breaking the leaves over the weekend, so playing in the yard finally. But anyways, this is the commonly referred to as the 13 acres on the west side as part of the land that was given to the city for the reserve development. As you know, the reserve has slowed down markedly in their process of development. A lot of that's a reflection of the current economic state. WCI filed for Chapter 11, the reorganization. They've since come out of, or close to coming out of reorganization, but the project's not going to go as fast as we had anticipated because the market can't absorb the units and folks are just having a hard time economically. So just to give you some context of where this land, this piece of land, to give you some history on it, was initially slated to be a minor league baseball stadium. During the long negotiations with the folks at WCI, actually it was a previous owners before WCI, they had agreed to put a minor league baseball stadium on the site. Later on, during the process of negotiations, when WCI came into the picture, they said, look, why don't we just give you $10 million for the baseball stadium? We'll give you the land. If you want to build it, you can build it. If you want to keep the money, you can keep the money. And we're sort of out of the whole baseball stadium scenario. And part of that was because WCI just doesn't do. They didn't have any experience doing that kind of construction, and they just didn't want to deal with it. From that point, we took ownership of the property through a quick a deed sign over, and there were some discussions with a development group that talked about putting a multi-purpose facility on that site that was going to be a hockey arena, an indoor arena, and related parking there. And if you remember, the council voted to give them about 16 months to study whether or not they were going to do that project. Eventually, they ran the economics. It just didn't make economic sense for them, and the property's been pretty much sitting there undeveloped. In the same process, we've begun discussions with Mr. Foley's group relating to looking at the property a little bit different. One, looking at a less intensive use than a stadium would provide in terms of traffic and all the headaches that go with that. And number two, for the city's perspective, we wanted to derive some ratables. We wanted to be able to get some tax revenue back into the city, as well as provide some kind of lifestyle amenity incentive there. At the same time, as you know, Danbury's sort of become a popular place to do a lot of filming. We had a nice run with film that we rented out the Emmanuel Lutheran School. And so we began actively looking for flex space for the city to be able to lease out to a production company that would come to Danbury to do their film. Since that time we began doing this, almost 18 months ago, the film industry is under strike. There's a writer's strike. I think there's an actor's strike too. I can't figure out who's on strike, but everybody's on strike. So a lot of the actual production has slowed down, but we anticipate those issues being resolved and film production will pick up again. And so Mr. Foley sort of approached me with this idea. I said, well, let's go one better. Let's have a flexible space for the city, about 5,000 square feet, that we could lease on a short-term basis to a prospective production company that could store all their equipment, do their post-production there, just like they did over at the Emmanuel Lutheran School. But it would be more of a modern facility. They could move the walls around with dividers and set it up the way they want. Mr. Foley has agreed to build a 400-seat theater that would be 4 independent films. This is not a Sony Cineplex, let's run 10 films at once. That's not the intention here. This is for independent films that would be first run, and that would be shown, or they would use this facility as a showcase for their particular product. I mean, the ultimate goal would be that you would have a film made in Danbury and then shown in the theater. I mean, and have a debut and have a red carpet and the whole thing. That would be the goal at some point. We're not obviously there yet, but that would be kind of a neat twist to this whole development. The theater would be run by Jacob Burns, which also runs a similar kind of theater in Pleasantville, New York. They would be the operations people. They're not building it. Mr. Foley, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, we're building it for them. We're building it for
Mr.
them.
Foley's building the theater, but then Jacob Burns would enter an agreement to actually run the theater on a daily basis. And I would strongly, I know Wayne's been down to check out their facility, as well as Ted Kasumpis from my office. And I would strongly encourage any member of the council that wants to go down and check it out, let me know, and we can.
Yeah, we'd be glad to arrange a tour of their facilities, and glad to show whoever wants to go. We'll make arrangements and show you their theater, give you an idea of their programming and their back office operation. They also have built. We were involved in the original development of the Jacob Burns Film Center in Pleasantville, which, just to give you a little history, was where it's housed now was originally one of the first motion picture theaters in Westchester County. I guess it opened around 1916, 1920, something like that. Because it was a single-screen theater, it lasted into late 70s, early 80s, and then it was no longer economically viable. They shut it down. It couldn't compete with the multiplexes, the multi-screen theaters. It sat there, and I may be stop me if I'm giving more information than is necessary, but I'm giving a little history of a guy by the name of Steve Apcon, who is a retired Goldman Sachs partner, lives in Pleasantville, about 2 blocks from where we own a lot of commercial property right near the theater, and I've developed and are redeveloping a lot of commercial property right near the theater. He lives in a residential area about 2 blocks away. He had been walking by this theater for years, and now he retired from Goldman Sachs. This is 7, 8 years ago, and had some money, had some time on his hands, and was looking for a new challenge, and was always fascinated with the film industry and films and so on. He inquired, found out that the property was available, went to us. We gave an initial large contribution, founding contribution to the theater, and helped them with it as far as the planning and construction, budgeting, and design and all that. And basically pulled off the total renovation and expansion to a 2-screen independent theater, which has been hugely successful. They show independent films. They do various genre type festivals. It might be Italian films one week where they show.
They do a horror festival that's very.
Do they?
Yeah.
I'm not a horror guy. So.
It's a big time.
And they also, through his connections, Steve has a lot of strong connections in Hollywood. They'll also preview full first-run films also. They might get, like, they got Angels and Demons before any of the theaters got Angels and Demons. And they had Dan Brown there who wrote Angels and Demons and Da Vinci Code and all that. And they have several stars come in, and they'll do cocktail parties, and they'll do meet and greets, and they'll show the film, and they'll have questions and answers after. So it's really become, through Steve's work, it's really become hugely successful. It's a nationally known film center, and we've been talking for the last couple of years about where might be appropriate for them to expand. They didn't want to be too close to where they are now. They didn't want to compete with themselves or cannibalize themselves. So they felt this was kind of an area up here that was far enough away, and it was an opportunity to basically expand their footprint. And so we felt this was a great location for it and an appropriate anchor for some kind of mixed-use lifestyle center.
There's also, and so in order to support obviously the film center and the production facility as well as the theater, there are related boutique stores that would be there. There would be no box stores. The largest, I think, footprint would be, per se, a Whole Foods or...
Yeah, a Whole Foods type operation would be the only large retail store. The rest of them would be boutique type retail uses.
Right, retail uses. And there would be a small, like a gazebo for outdoor performances to accommodate, a soloist and maybe 100 people or 50 people, or it wouldn't be compete with an Ives Center or something like that. And the idea here would be that a couple things is, one is eventually we'd like to link this facility with the film festival on Main Street, so there'd be a lot of synergy between the two. I don't think the two are separate. I think the two can work very well together, and I don't think we lose anything on Main Street by having this facility in Danbury. I think we can enhance the festival. As it is now, most of the major awards for the festival were done at the Amber Room, so it's not like you're doing those part on Main Street. We would still keep Main Street as the focal point for all the small productions or whatever, but you might be able to do a big rollout of a big film that we can attract here with this kind of facility to be a capstone or a cornerstone of the event. So we think it's a way to open up the whole city for the festival long term as well. So that's pretty much where we're at now in terms of what does a deal look like. We've made a lot of discussions. One of the things we've talked about, which I think is in the proposal, was a $2.5 million property right, what we're calling a property development rights agreement, which would allow use of the property for 10 years and then enter a lease agreement beyond that at some certain, with the, your CPIs and all that other stuff that goes in it for the next 50 years or 60 years. Obviously, there's a significant investment of money here, so you can't do like a 20-year lease and then say, no, by the way, you're all done. So that would, in terms of that, full taxes, there's no deferrals that we're offering, no tax breaks or anything like that, unless the state wants to come in and drop something in on us. Other than that, we're not actively doing that. We will anticipate creating a number of jobs, and we can probably get a figure for you on that, both in the construction of the facility as well as the actually working there between the boutique stores, the theater, et cetera. So it's job creation. And finally, the last leg of this, the last piece, was that in our initial discussions, we'd like to use this payment at some point, whether it's in this budget or future budgets, to leverage acquisition of about 200 acres across the street. That would be the old Baco Beyond property that's owned by Hank Greenberg. And we've been in discussions with Mr. Greenberg about sale. We're very close on a number. So we would leverage some of this 13 acres funding to go out and purchase about 190 acres of open space literally across the street. So any resident in that area that's concerned, well, we're giving up some of our open space, the reality is we're going to use this money to leverage a bigger piece of open space that'll have hiking trails, and we're actually going to link this up with the town of Southeast, so you'll be able to cross the border and go back. The New York Times is writing a piece on this in the next couple of weeks. So it's a really win-win for everybody. Danbury gets to expand its open space inventory. We get development, we get jobs, we get to enhance the film industry in Danbury. We get ratables to our tax base, which I'm sure Dan will chip in, we need. And we also are able to provide also a nice linkage with the film festival. So that's kind of where we are, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Foley does have, I think, some renderings and some drawings, and I'm not sure exactly if you want to have him go ahead and dive right into
Might
it.
as well. Yeah, if you would like.
Sure.
Pictures worth 1,000 words.
Right. And these are preliminary and subject to change, it's fair to say.
Absolutely, yeah.
And also our planning staff has to review them.
And this is to give you a concept.
Conceptual, yeah.
Yeah, this is to give you an idea of the architectural style that we're looking to do. I don't know where should I put this?
Right here. Far around the...
Up there? Yeah, that's
No, this will work on that.
Sorry about that.
The idea is this is a view of the main boulevard. The idea is that we're looking to do a New England Village type concept. Okay, that basically is you go there maybe to see a movie. You might have something to eat before you go see the movie. You might have something to eat afterwards. You might do a little shopping before or after. It's not a place where you drive in, you spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you get back in your car and leave. It's not. It's a place where you want to. It's what's more commonly called these days a lifestyle center, lifestyle type cultural center, and we feel there's going to be a good synergy between all the uses. Between you might go in, you might do some shopping after the movie, at a gift shop or buy a bottle of wine or something, and like I said, might get something to eat before or after the movie.
Summertime, there's a small gazebo that
which would be good for instance, let's say the high school had a string quartet that wanted to do a little recital or whatever on a Thursday evening during the summer. Appropriate for maybe 50 or 100 people watching, not hundreds. Just a small type, give local groups and everything opportunity to perform and so on. And so this is, it's like I said, a New England style, cedar shakes, stucco and so on. A lot of brick pathways, landscape, just situation, boulevards and so on. You can walk through most of the entire development without basically, except for crossing the streets. These are all covered walkways. These are all second floors overhang the first floors, so you can walk around the project without getting wet in rainy weather and so on. Just to give you an idea of what the site plan would look like.
Mr. Foley, just out of curiosity, do you have a time frame on this?
ASAP.
Yeah, we'd like to go forward. We're ready to go forward.
I mean, how long will it take to build on it?
I would say it's an 18-month project to build it, approximately. Might be a little sooner or a little, plus or minus 3 or 4 months. The theater is ready to go. Obviously, the rehearsals, we're calling rehearsal studio space, which would be for the city, would be built in conjunction with the theater.
Mr. Chairman, can I just about that, Wayne, when you were down there was a school that was there, wasn't there?
Across the street, they have an education facility. That's one of the things Paul knows. They have a very good relationship with Pace University through the Jacob Burns Center, as we would have with Western Connecticut State University, and also trying to link some educational components to space available within your facility here, so that we can develop that as our educational mission as well.
They do a lot of programs with schools, in conjunction with schools, in the theater, and they've also built down the street, and you never know, this might follow depending on the success of the theater. They built, which we could arrange a tour for also for anyone else to go down. About a block away, Steve raised another $20 million and built what they call a media arts lab, where the theaters show the movies, the media arts lab produces the movies. They actually have film production in there, animation production, do different educational programs for college level students, high school level students, and they bought a house next to the media arts lab where they have a director in residence. A director will come there, a famous director will come there, stay for a month, and work with people on producing films locally. For those of you who have an idea where the site is, Ridgebury Road here, Reserve Road here, this is where you make the right into the WCI project. And these are basically the playing fields or whatever. Okay? We're proposing the entrance to be approximately where it is now. And the view that you see on this plan here is basically standing here and looking this way down at this building. This is this building right here, the front of this building right here. So that would be a view looking down this boulevard. The theater and the studio space would be over here in one building, so it'd be easily accessible. The natural foods market would be down here, and like I said, this is a mixture of basically boutique retail in these buildings here. And this would be a parking structure to take overflow when the theater is particularly busy. Generally what happens is, the way this would work is, most people that come in here for other uses than the theater would be coming in during the day. Some would come in the evening, maybe to get something to eat or something like that. The theater does things during the day on weekends, but more in the evening during the week, in the evening on the weekend. So I'm sorry, I'm trying up here, I have allergies. So my voice is running out. But we put in, like I said, a parking structure for that overflow. We have about 600 parking spaces proposed in the project. Sorry.
Now, I just want to emphasize, I don't think Dennis has seen, you've seen the concept, but I don't think you've actually seen these drawings. These are just to give you a sense of what it will.
That's one I saw.
And we'll open to suggestions and so on, and comments. This is just our
That's what we think about
What I have looked similar.
And you notice there's no curb cuts on Old Ridgebury Road.
And where's the property you want to save this open space?
That's Ridgebury Road, so it would be to the...
The other one up. I'll put the other one up.
I'm sorry. But that's the second. Sorry.
There's Ridgebury Road, it's on the other
Yeah,
side.
Ridgebury Road would be here, right. It's on the other side of 84, where the Hillen is, the new Hillen, where the pond is.
It's Farrington's property. But the Farrington
It was
piece-
Barrington Beach, yeah. Now it's been back up beyond its AIG for the last about 7 or 8
where the
years.
swamps are.
It's the headwaters for the Still River. That's where the Still River starts. But it's about, he's got about 300 acres there. Southeast is going to purchase the portion that abuts up to ours, and we're working on a hiking trail that will go from
roughly the Hilton, for the Hilton, all the way across like state line, loop around and come back. About total of about 400 acres. But the idea would be that we would leverage this to do that.
Okay, do you gentlemen have anything more right now, or just open up to questions? Yeah, pardon me. Gentlemen, do you have anything you want to throw out there yet?
You read okay?
Sure.
I do have several questions. To the chair, the actual Realty Equities Group, did we get a background on who they are? I don't know who they
Yeah,
are.
we can get your resume if that's would be helpful. Sure, absolutely.
Okay, continue.
Yeah.
As my questions come out. The total acreage is the full 13 acres,
Yeah, there are some wetlands there, those. So that
Yeah,
but the whole lease would be the full 13.
the whole site is, yes, we're proposing that, yeah.
would be property rights. But yes,
Yes, so we were talking about the whole,
yes.
the entire site, which is 13.125 acres.
Since the mayor mentioned this is not a lease, I'll go back here. It says term of lease, 99 years.
I know it's the first cut at what an agreement would look like. That is not the agreement. We're not asking you to approve that tonight. We wanted to get the concept out there. We've got a little bit of work to do. The basic, the core components of that are what we're looking to do. But we probably will end up calling it property rights, but it'll be an agreement that allows use of the property. And then after 10 years, you'll probably have a lease that'll kick in at some certain per year, which is...
But eventually we'll turn into a lease at some point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So again, just so we get it all out, since at some point it will turn into a lease, now this Public Act 07218, which required a public hearing, this would qualify for that.
Sure.
So at some point, this would have to go to a public hearing.
Correct.
Before this whole thing is...
Well, actually, you could agree to do it and go to the council, but you can't execute the contracts until you actually do a public hearing for that.
So the public will have their input at some point before city signs off.
Well, it's got to go to zoning.
The whole thing, I understand.
You mean we're not selling this whole thing tonight?
I have a lot of land use issues, but I would hold
Well,
off.
we got
on
Dennis here, so feel free to fire away if you want.
Well, again, there's something it would be traffic issues would be a concern, noise, parking, that whole issue. Figuring where this piece is, it's going up the hill, it's sitting above where everything else is. So noise could be an issue, especially with WCI being right next to it. And because
What kind of noise would you anticipate coming out of there, council?
I don't know, but
These
figure,
guys right down the road.
I mean, as cars go in and out, I don't know what noise is always an issue. Traffic is being an issue. I'm just giving them out as people talk to me on this proposal. I'm just putting them on the table. As far as getting through the chair,
Absolutely.
a market analysis on the piece in general. Has the city done anything, some type of analysis of what else can the city use this property for?
We have had discussions internally about how best to utilize the piece. I think at this point our goal is to get the best use and the best dollar value out of it for the taxpayers. By and large, after the 16 months it had cleared, this project really came to fruition, and we thought it really was the best use of it. You could certainly turn it into housing, but of course if you turn it into housing, you generate noise and traffic and everything you already articulated. In addition, you don't have as good ratables in terms of taxation purposes. So we really felt commercial use that creates jobs in this economy would be the best highest use of the property.
And both of the Civic Center proposal and the baseball stadium would have been traffic generators, where this will be a spread out traffic. It's not going to be a one flush of cars coming in. It's going to be a throughout the day situation.
Exactly.
If I may just throw this in, Councilman, looking at this, I understand your concern about the traffic, but the parking, I mean, it looks like ample parking there, and that's what Floyd's saying, that people are going to be using it during the day, sporadically, and then be leaving or coming at night and that type of thing. So I appreciate your
traffic in
concern.
and out up and down that road.
But now I get a ball game. That's the mayor's point.
And my last question is before I turn it back over. Now, when they built WCI, one of their proposals is to have a village like this. Is that still in the plan, or is that going to contradict this?
Honestly, I'm not aware.
It's still part of their master plan.
But that's
It
a
is.
different kind of development. That's small-scale village center, primarily for the residents of the reserve. This is not. This is not.
Even when
An
they're,
example would be, they might have a facility to drop your shirts off. At WCI, we're here, they may have a Talbot's. It's two different concepts. So they won't be competing with each other.
even when I was on that EIC commission when he did this, when I spoke to the developer, he did mention having a Starbucks and things of a larger scale besides just catering to the residents. He was also going to open it up to cater to the surrounding.
Your square footage on
I
that
think the
approval
PMD limits the square
was
footage
limited.
of each facility to like 1,000 square feet, and I think they were only approved for 30,000. Like, they talked about a dry cleaner, a barber shop, or something to service the people who live there. Nothing of any real size. But the PMD only allowed those small uses in size, basically.
I would, Mr. Chairman, interject that the chances of you seeing that constructed any time in our lifetime are probably...
It's a good question, but I think that
Right, hold on, please, Mr. Galvin.
Unfortunately.
Things change.
Mr. Scalp, I think you're going to offer something.
it's a good question. My last point was I think that WCI view this more as a benefit to their residents versus competition to their retail.
The master plan of the of WCI, which controls the development, which is right there, and would have to be changed through the commission if there was any change in uses. But to the previous point you raised, that master plan indicates that the surrounding properties to this property are mostly of a commercial use, being office, hotel, things of that nature, versus residential. Most of the residential is well west of this property, near Sawmill Road, which is under construction now. So it's probably a couple hundred acres west of this piece. So in this area, on the other side of Reserve Road is commercial for office development, and beyond that, I think is a great deal of open space. I'm not studying it directly, and across the street, of course, is the existing office building that was initially built to service a banking facility and a real estate office.
Would WCI have to approve this?
No. No. I may interject.
Mr. Hoffman, it's a pleasure to hear from you again.
Since we're discussing land use.
Absolutely.
First of all, I wouldn't sit here and try to do a site plan review at this time. I think that's a foolish waste of time. I did receive a plan that was similar to this. It appears as though you've made some refinements, but it's basically the same. I don't see a problem with Old Ridgebury Road. We're coming right off of exit 2 from 84. Easy on, easy off, as they say. As far as noise is concerned, if you follow the master plan for the reserve, directly to the west of this is an area that is designated for office use. You don't get into housing until a minimum of over 500 feet away. Okay, and between that and the office development is open space, wooded areas. So I don't see that as a real problem. Again, as far as traffic is concerned, that's really should be something that the traffic engineer should look at. This committee cannot do that. You are not qualified to do that.
Well, where that's sir. Looked right at me when you said that, too.
No, I was actually looking at that. My only concern twofold. One, this should be rezoned CA80 because it's not part of the reserve. It's not a planned neighborhood development. Rezoned CA80 and clears up a lot of issues. We miss a lot of issues that otherwise we would have to go through in trying to shoehorn this into something that really doesn't belong in, and that's the P&D regulations. Okay. And presumably, if this is going to be a lease, it's got to go to the planning commission at some point. They're reviewing comment. But otherwise, I don't have any objections at this point. I mean, we may find little things here and there on site plan review, but conceptually, it looks sound to me.
Does the Gooseberry Road all CA80, like no plane road anyway?
Across the street.
Across the street CA80, and also no plane is all CA80.
Yeah.
So it's literally across the street is zone CA80. So.
There's some IL-40 in there too, right?
There's a little IL where the...
But I mean, it's not like it's spot zone type of thing.
no,
There's no
it's not supposed
CAA
to.
in,
Sure, just look there, I can see it.
that's no plan.
Well, it's clear that we have our homework to do yet. Councilman, do you have anything?
Yes, through the chair, maybe to Corporation Council, or maybe to the mayor, to finance. The difference between, just again, maybe put into layman terms, the difference between the property rights agreement versus a lease agreement.
I think it's all just how, through you, Mr. Chairman, it's all just how you classify it for us based on our accounting methods. It's essential. All practical purposes will allow for the use of the property for for the length of the term of the agreement, and that's all it really is. If it doesn't make a bigger difference, and if after the 10-year period you want to revert back and call it a lease, you certainly can do that too. We've done this similarly with things like Olive Garden, Red Lobster, Airstaff Biddle properties out there by the airport. Not uncommon within the city to do these kinds of agreements. And just want to emphasize again how critical economic development is right now for the city and how important these jobs are, both the construction as well as the actual permanent jobs within the facility. But it's all a matter of how you account for them.
Excuse me, anything further? Mr. Nagasha?
No. I'd have to assume this is going to be a table meeting, it's going to continue.
I would assume so, yes.
But I do think, I think it was the mayor had a good suggestion. I think we should tour the facility.
I'd like to do that.
I think it's good. One-dimensional isn't.
Mr. Pinter, just to you, Mr. Chairman, the only thing I'd be concerned about was if we have three of the ad hoc there, then that constitutes a quorum of the ad hoc and would be a violation of the Freedom of Information Act. So perhaps what we do is pair each of the members of the committee with another council person. So I don't know if like Paul wants to go down. And as long as we don't have a majority of the council there, we'll try to pack in as many people who want to go. We'll put it out to everybody. Whoever wants to go, they can go. Maybe just break it into two separate trips down, and kind of like what we did with the train.
Or we can find an interstate exception somehow.
Yeah.
Going across state lines, maybe it'll work something out.
But I know that Wayne was very impressed with the facility, and as was
I
Ted.
think you can see it, get a different perspective. And then I'd like to make a motion.
Well, Mr. Shingy, real quick, this summer, sometime within the next 3 or 4 weeks is good for everybody?
July's kind of hurting.
Early August, we do that then?
Just making it out next week, tomorrow night's meeting, just making it out there. We can try to schedule it through your office. And I'd like to make a motion, at least for the next ad hoc meeting we have, that we can have some type of draft agreement available so we can take a look at.
Unless you and Mr. Bailey can work on that?
Sure, we can hash out those terms.
And so you're making a motion to continue this reading.
It'll be a motion to continue.
Okay. And there's really, we've got two tracks going on here, Mr. Chairman. We have the agreement that we have purview over. We also got a zoning track. So I think we're asking Mr. Foley to invest some money here in the zoning process. I don't want to spend his money. Ted, you know.
Mr. Mayor, I talked to Paul about this, and Paul thinks the zoning, you might mention to the mayor, Paul, what we talked about today, about the zoning coming before the council. I mean, it doesn't seem to be that the property should be, an application to change the zone, if in fact the council doesn't approve the process. I mean, we're asking for
The
something.
chicken or egg, that's my concern here.
Yeah,
So,
so, yeah,
how about this, in the interim, why doesn't Mr. Jaber get with Mr. Alpern, and they can sit down and kind of noodle how to best proceed with the zoning side, so that Mr. Foley doesn't put through an undue expense running through zoning if the council's not apt to go forward with the agreement, but conversely, if the council goes forward, we're ready to go.
And I think if the zoning feels comfortable that the council has accepted this, they'd be more apt to feel more comfortable with it when they have 200 people, no? Rather than do zoning first.
Well, we've always had problems doing zoning without agreements with other people, doing it on other people's property without an agreement. Well, you'd have to consent to us doing it.
Well, I think,
I don't know.
The city
I don't
could
know
put
if
a
that
proposal for a site for a zone change.
That would answer all the questions.
If I may-
We can do
Would
a
you
zone
say?
change.
Yeah, if you would do it, that would answer all the questions.
if I may, why don't we...
Because you don't want us to do
A
it.
bunch of conversations, wait, she's not able to get all this stuff down, what everybody talking about.
Currently, because it's going to take several months just to get through that process, and you can go ahead on the lease agreement in the meantime. It's going to take several months to get through the whole zoning process.
All right, so,
Now, they're going to have to do that anyway, is presuming your risk is a couple $100 in an application fee.
Okay, here's what I still think, Mr. Chairman, if Mr. Chinisi's amenable, that we get Mr. Jaber and Mr. Alpern together to figure out the best path
Yeah,
for this
parallel
zoning.
tracks.
Put out parallel tracks. And let's focus in on the facility, visiting the site, so people get a nice tour, understand what we're trying to do here, and then the final agreement.
are you all right with that, Ben?
That sound good, Ben?
So would you take back your motion?
No, he's gonna-
That's kind of what he meant.
It's a motion to table.
Yes.
Not table, continue.
Continue, motion to continue. At the next meeting, we will also have a draft document for the ad hoc review. And in the meantime,
Really want to know.
planning and zoning could get with the applicant, review the zoning, the IC issues, planning issues that need to go.
And any council members that want to
That'll be through the mayor's
The
office.
motion has been made on the floor. And
Second.
it is now second. Is there any discussion on that, gentlemen? It's only us. Seeing none, I'll try to remind all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. None opposed. At this point in time, I see no further business tonight of this committee.
motion to adjourn.
Therefore, I'll accept a motion to adjourn and have it second. All those in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.